Hello everybody and welcome to Art Classes My Way. We are going to continue on with our little duckies here. First thing we are going to do is pretty much clean up all the little areas where I had my masking fluid and it got a little bit bigger than what I wanted. I'm going to switch to something just a little bit smaller to make sure I can get into all those little tiny areas. I'm switching over to a 20 round pretty much. And I'm just going to go in here with the colors that I used in my previous video and just touch up all these little areas. So it's nothing that's too big a deal. So it's just going to be my blacks, some of my blues, and some of my greens. So, in a moment.
Now we'll get the scissors. Yes. God damn it! I know something about this angle, I just can't get with it. No, it's right clear. It's 4 spots. Oh, there we go, I'll be in the foreground. There we go, I don't want to be in the foreground. Whatever. It's hard to do. You know what? Whatever. So there are other, I need to get 28 more waterproofs in New York. Well, just those are the to do this. That's what I got. 50 packs, 3 times in the soup, bomb food. Down to the trash. Oh, I see. That's why I spent one. For some reason, I didn't look at the zero until after I pressed F all the time. So I thought I had one, but minus a. The soup's not even there. The bomb's on the floor. How would I poop in that soup? That's a real station trouble. Not enjoying it. Not enjoying it, thanks. I'm getting the up and down direction right now. But it's still getting the timing right as they walk. Why none of them got pants on? That's an observation I'm making right now. Oh shit. Hello you. The Saxony vampires just selling here, and this is Robert Mentzer's Sins of the Father. Now this game actually comes with the trailers where I suggest that people hadn't seen the trailer before they could get to vote for it. And some people argue against that, etc. I still hold this question, but that's what it is. However, I do still strongly believe nobody actually cared about the trailer as a Closely now, making it it's got 1 review on being for quite some time, and 5 topics in discussion on and 2 of those 5 topics are the same topic that I've read once. So it's got literally no attention, despite enough people saying that they buy it when it was in green room. So I still think no one gave a shit about it, and were voting for it either based on the name or a screenshot, they forgot about it, or fucking there's something else that happened. But I don't think people were excited about the game, and voted for it because they wanted it. Otherwise, people would have played it. It's got 1 review, and that's the end. Hey, is that music by Kevin MacLeod? I can't hear anything. But I think this says comedy dead, because I tell you what, I love the comedy. And I love Darren. Here's the music, this. Okay, so with this little boy in a hat. Oh wow, okay. There's no way to control the camera, but the camera itself goes, oh, that's so weird. Oh, okay. Reading some sort of box, fair enough. So the trunk is open and that was the thing. Ah, brilliant. It's some wacky scarecrow. That's the necromancer, just like that wall. I was using nothing but oh, that's a funky border. That kid is rough in the eyeshadow. I've got to respect that. Okay. Oh, the boy from the prophecy we've been watching a long time for you. To enter the kingdom of the dead, you must kill Shab if you don't your giants here. I'll take most excuses to skeletal boys. Oh, what the fuck? Isn't they fucking money? Okay. Okay, so is that strafing or there's no aiming? I have to just no. If I hit fire, the fire button, press the flamethrower out. He just moves in the direction, he faces the direction I moved in it. This is good. They've got the club music and literally no other sound. Also, this is fucking horrible. Oh my god. I mean, it's only players. And I'm moving them else to try and aim like you would, a game with this perspective. And it's not doing it. Holding down right click, holding down middle mouse button, just something to try and get it to stay facing one direction. And no, it's not working. That does not work. Please help. Did the person who made this game play it? Because that's like beyond a rookie error. You need to be able to like stay facing in different directions to attack with it. What the hell? Shout at me. And it's flamethrower is awful.
Alright, now, first thing we are going to focus on is going to be our little male duck here. And the reason why I want to do that is that since I have this female duck and she is from a completely different photo, I'm putting her in the background, I want to make sure that I get him right first so that way I can use him as a kind of gauge to make it seem like she's behind him. So she won't be quite as bright. Even though she's a little brown, light brown duck, I gotta darken her up slightly to make her feel like she's in the same photo as this guy. Or another thing that could end up happening is I make them both the same brightness, and it looks like you turn the flash on your camera, and then your background looks nice, and then your foreground and your midground looks nice, but they don't look like they belong together. We don't want that happening. So I'm going to do this male duck first, and I'm going to start with his little head. Harlequin duck has a lot of blues and blacks, so it's going to be a lot of ultramarine mixed with the color black. Even the blacks, I'm going to keep ultramarine and black together, just so that way it feels like it's the same black being used throughout, that bluish color. The lines have gone because of that masking fluid. I'm just going to outline his little eye here so that way I remember where he is. It's kind of hard to tell where it is anymore. And we got that little white stripe. It goes along the top of its head. I'm going to define that out, and then there is a black stripe that goes along his little face here. So this is a very bluey black, so I'm going to go ahead and get all this laid down before I do any of that. Water and make this flow just a little better. Now I want to add a lot of water. Because his bill is a gray blue like his body. So I want to get that in here. So then that white spot comes kind of down around in here, so and I'm just putting down colors right now more than anything. I'm just kind of coming through here and picking up some of that deeper blue. So that way I get back to the color. It's a little much. There we go, that's much better. There, that looks appropriate. And I want to switch over to my 20 round here. Pick up some black and just go ahead and put the little details in his little bill. Adorable, cute little stubby bill here. And then I can pretty much overall call it done. There might be some touch-ups needed, but there won't be too many. Oh, never mind on that. We're going to go back to our blue-black and go ahead and put our black stripe along the top of his little head. With just a touch of that blue. You probably won't be able to tell that that blue is in there, but that's okay. It is more of a cohesive look than anything why we put that blue in there. And even after I put this black down, I might even just come in here with just straight blue after it dries and just put a quick dry wash over the top and any more water. And that's the thing with using these teeny tiny brushes in watercolors. You do run out of water pretty quickly. And it's not the brush's fault, it's just they're tiny. They can't go as far as other paintbrushes can. because they just can't hold that much water. While we're at it, might as well go ahead and put in that little eyeball, and I'm not going to worry about putting any color in this part. Just make sure that I put a little white shine in there and map that out. That way his eye looks nice and wet. Adorable. And now to just kind of show the folds of his skin going around his actual eye itself, I'm going to go ahead and start putting in those lines because of how dark his little head is and everything else, this black that I'm putting in is just going to end up blending into that deep, deep blue, pretty much just making shadowing as opposed to black lines. And I'm going to make sure that I blend them nicely so that way you don't have a definite line in between this black that I'm putting down and that blue. The blue highlights, that's actually where light is hitting his little black head, and that's how it is kind of showing up. I'm just pushing some of this color, some of the pigment back this direction off of where I want to highlight, but I still want it to be nice and fadey. It's just a little tweak, and it's something that I really love about 300-pound watercolor paper is that you can do that. You can still push your pigments around with your paintbrush. Or even, indeed, just completely lift them up off of the paper without them balling your paper up. I am seeing my paper ball up just a little bit, but I'm having a feeling that's because of my masking fluid that I tried to use. I don't know if I really don't particularly care for it. I don't think. Right. Get some more black. Whereas and I think by the time I'm done, I might get some white gouache and go in here over the white. Mostly because I have a bit of a thing where if something is in the background behind something, then I don't particularly feel like I need to add anything to it. But this white is kind of on top of all this color I'm putting down, and if it feels like it's on the bottom, it won't feel quite right to me. So that might be something I end up doing. And now for more blue, ultra blue. And as you can see, I'm going through this very slowly. I am taking my time. And it may take you a little longer to do yourself, but that is okay. Speed comes with practice and knowledge. Just get some of that pigment off so that way I can fade these two colors together. There we are. Now that I have a couple more things I'm going to do with that little eye here after a bit. More blue. A little deeper in this area. Kind of pick up some of that iridescent shine the ducks have. Probably the most familiar that we would be with here in Indiana would be mallard. That's it. The green head that shines. Off my brush, and I want to fade in between this gray blue and that blue I've put down. And I'm going to try to get rid of some of this perfect line between this black and blue here, so I'm just going to kind of scrub it up just a little bit. Stir them pigments up so that way they float and settle in this water that I got down just a little differently than what they were. A little bit of a blend. And completely clean my brush off once more. And just kind of go in and stir up these pigments so that way they will lay the way I want them to lay, and that's just a nice subtle blending. Alright, and I think I got a few areas that I can put some black in, but I want to use my smaller round again. And I am working just off of a little photo here with this little guy, so it is just what I am seeing going on. Alaska to go and get photos of this guy, so this will just have to do, or even a drawing of him, which would be even more ideal. live sketches. I'm just moving that pigment off of his little eye, where his eye is. That slight roundness there. That way it feels more round. There we go. Looking wonderful, little guy. Now there is this gorgeous bit of sienna between that black and that white. I'm gonna pick some of that up. And I'm just going to go with straight sienna here. Picked up some of that blue, but that's all right. We'll just clean off and continue on. Probably stops right about there. Warming it up, I'm going to give it a little bit more fade. I'm going to put a touch of yellow in there. And that white actually probably starts right about there. And just blend between. Up some of this black. Helps to add water. Again, I'm using the black to act as areas to define in his little face, such as how his eye would function over here, the actual eyebrow ridges. Well, maybe not so much the eyebrow ridges, but at least the bone structure that's happening underneath his little eye. And they do have, like us, you know, little eyelids that wrinkle and crinkle and move. That in there. And all I'm doing is just pushing and moving around what's already there. And if you're going in a motion like this, you're taking color from here and moving it down into here. And make sure that's the way you want to do it. Now if you're going in this direction, then you're taking color from the bottom and moving it up into here. Just keep that in mind when you're trying to do this adding and subtracting of what colors you've already got going on. And sometimes it never helps to get your fingers in there. Let that dry again. Now you can see it seems like I'm putting my blacks down really dark. Like when I just started again over here on this part, it started off really dark, but then by the time it dried right back to being about the same color. And something you gotta watch out for with blacks. You think you got them and then you don't. Alright. Now I'm going to start worrying about in here, and that's going to go to this kind of blue-gray, which is like the rest of his little body. And then there is a white stripe right in here I want to avoid. I'm going to pick up just a touch of black here and make sure it's nice and watery. The black itself being watered down, not that there is a ton of water on my paintbrush, because the There is shadowing a little bit along his little chest, and there is feathers here. Now this is probably something that's a little bit too delicate for what I want to do with my round nose, but I can get this accomplished just as easily with a little wiggle, wiggle, wiggle of the very tips of my round nose while it's still very lightly damp. And for now, I think really that's all I want of that. Just coming back in here with just some water, so that way it can kind of blend and bleed itself. So that way it looks like little tiny feathers are going around just a little bit. We don't want it a whole lot, just enough to give us an idea. And I could even go in with my little tiny brush here and just put some little marks here and there. Let them bleed out as they wish, just to redefine some of those areas. And lovely, lovely. And I need more water. And now we're going to go in here with the tiniest brush I got. Well, not that I got, but that I'm using, the 20. And I'm going to outline the black around his little white bands here. Need more water. Now I'm going to go in here and do the same. Now in this area, some of the feathers, the gray feathers and the white feathers, are a little bit longer. So I want to take that into account, that some of the white is going to come into the black and some of the black come into the white because of these longer little bits. Pretty much all smooth on top from here on out. All right, now for the rest of it, more water here. And there probably are a lot of watercolor artists that would mask this area off the way that they would want it, but I think that takes away some of the impressiveness of doing it by hand. Yeah, there's greater probability of making mistakes, but very little substitute for something that's entirely done by hand. wider. Okay, loving it. And I'm gonna really water this black down. That is not enough. I'm just using, there's like one little hair on this paintbrush that's longer than all the others, and I am just using that little hair to put these little lines in. Now, they're kind of, in a way, connecting up to these little areas here, but they're all coming from this point, so just think of it like a string of pearls. Little ducky feathers. Blend it into oblivion. Ah. And if you feel like maybe what you've done is a little bit too strong, you can just come in here with your larger one. Paintbrush, and get some water, stir it up, and just give it a light tap with your finger. Or a piece of toilet paper, what have you. I like using my finger because then I can gauge how wet I really am getting everything. Because we just want a hint of feathers coming around like this. And if I'm wanting to clean it up, I'm making sure that I'm drawing the pigments away into the areas where I don't mind them being. I'm coming in with just a little bit of that blue since it is fairly white, or light, and wet in here, and just putting a touch of color back into it, because it was kind of getting pretty gray there for a while. There, color's back in. Well, I'm going to pause the video here and I will be right back. You won't notice a difference. I'm going to wait for the sun to get out of my way. Life of being a painter, right? See you guys soon. Alright everybody, this video has gone on probably way longer than I ever really anticipated, and I was hoping to get this little man done, but it doesn't look like that's quite going to happen the way I was hoping. So we will go ahead and call this quits, and with the next video we will finish him up and hopefully get her done, since there's not nearly as much of her in sight. So I will call that, and thank you for coming and watching my video. Please like, subscribe, and leave comments. Let me know about things that you would like to learn in the comments section below. Otherwise, have a great day, and thanks for coming and hanging out. Bye!